Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're tackling a really critical engineering challenge that affects the world's most intense, heavy-duty industries. I mean, if you've ever stopped to wonder exactly how these massive industrial structures manage to hold together under just unimaginable stress, well, you're absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going to be exploring the unique metallurgy of Duplex 2205 fasteners, and we'll see exactly why Aanuraj Fasteners has emerged as such a premier, go-to source for these highly specialized components.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with the harsh environment challenge, then cover what is Duplex 2205, move into its key features and strengths, look at extreme industry applications, and finish up with why choose Aanuraj Fasteners.
So what really holds the world's most extreme industries together? You know, we often look at these massive offshore oil rigs, deep-sea piping systems, and sprawling chemical refineries, and we just marvel at the macro structure. But the reality? These billion-dollar infrastructures are entirely dependent on their absolute smallest components, the industrial fasteners. It's honestly staggering to think that a multi-billion-dollar operation can literally grind to a halt just because of a handful of small hardware. If a single bolt fails under pressure or corrodes from chemical exposure, the consequences can be catastrophic. The stakes here literally couldn't be higher.
Which brings us to Section 1, the harsh environment challenge.
Heavy industries operate in conditions that are, quite frankly, actively trying to destroy metal. Just think about it. On offshore platforms, structural assemblies and equipment mounts are subjected to constant, relentless seawater exposure. Move below the surface to subsea equipment, and you're dealing with this brutal combination of extreme physical pressure and localized chloride attacks. Over in refineries and petrochemical plants, you have pressure vessels and heat exchangers being constantly bathed in aggressive, highly corrosive chemicals. It is a relentless assault, and for engineers, ignoring these extremes means risking millions in downtime, or worse, critical safety failures.
So the crucial point is this. Standard hardware simply cannot survive here. If you're trying to use traditional carbon steel or standard single-phase stainless steels, you are being forced into a really dangerous compromise. Single-phase alloys typically make you choose, right? You get either high mechanical strength or high corrosion resistance. But in the environments we just talked about, you need both of those things simultaneously. A standard bolt is either going to snap under the physical load or it's going to rapidly degrade from chloride-induced pitting. It's a lose-lose situation.
Moving on to Section 2. What exactly is Duplex 2025?
Duplex 2205, which is technically known by its USS designations S32205 or S31803, is an absolute marvel of modern metallurgy. Just like the name implies, it features a dual-phase microstructure. In its annealed condition, it contains roughly 40 to 50% ferrite, and that's surrounded by continuous pools of austenite. This incredible internal structure isn't an accident. It's stabilized by a very specific, carefully balanced chemical cocktail of chromium, nickel, molybdenum, and nitrogen.
The real brilliance of this dual-phase chemistry is how it essentially borrows the best possible traits from two completely different metallurgical families. Ferritic alloys are famous for their high strength and excellent resistance to stress corrosion cracking. Austenitic alloys, on the other hand, bring incredible ease of fabrication and superior general corrosion resistance to the table. So by combining them into one single hybrid alloy, Duplex 2205 flat-out refuses to compromise. It gives engineers that exact elusive combination of physical toughness and chemical resistance that standard single-phase alloys just cannot replicate.
Let's look at Section 3, key features and strength.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the specific data we've extracted right from the technical data sheet provided by Aanuraj Fasteners. The numbers here are just incredible. Duplex 2205 has a minimum yield strength of 450 megapascals. That is a massive load-bearing capacity. On top of that, its service temperature ranges from -50 degrees Celsius all the way up to 300 degrees Celsius. This basically means whether you're operating in freezing sub-sea depths or inside scorching heat exchangers, the material completely maintains its structural integrity.
To really put that 450 megapascals into perspective, let's compare it directly to standard austenitic stainless steels, like your typical grades 304 or 316. Those standard grades only offer a minimum yield strength of about 205 megapascals. So Duplex 2205 boasts literally more than twice the yield strength. This is a total game changer for structural engineering. It means you can support vastly heavier loads, or alternatively, you could potentially design lighter, thinner structures without ever sacrificing an ounce of safety or performance.
But beyond just raw, brute strength, the key features of Duplex 2205 fasteners are specifically tailored for long-term survival. Thanks to the molybdenum and nitrogen in the mix, the material has outstanding resistance to pitting and crevice corrosion, which, by the way, is exactly how chlorides and seawater usually destroy metal. It also features superior toughness and fatigue strength, meaning it can handle continuous, heavy vibration and dynamic loads without developing stress corrosion cracking. For you, this translates to a significantly longer service life and total peace of mind, even in the worst high-chloride environments.
That takes us to Section 4, Extreme Industry Applications.
Because of everything we've just covered, Duplex 2205 is essentially the gold standard across the oil, gas, and chemical sectors. Out on offshore platforms, it's the go-to for structural framing and deck supports, places where the salty air would quickly rust standard steel to dust. Beneath the waves, subsea piping systems and complex valve assemblies rely on it to handle the immense water pressure and chloride attack. And back on land, in chemical plants and water treatment facilities, you'll find it heavily used securing pressure vessels and heat exchangers, totally unfazed by the aggressive processing chemicals boiling inside.
And we're not just talking about one type of fastener here. You've got hex and heavy hex bolts for those major structural joints. Stud bolts, which are absolutely critical for securing flanged pipework and heat exchangers, along with perfectly matched nuts, lock nuts, and washers. Actually, those washers are vital because they distribute loads evenly and maintain clamping force on heavily vibrating equipment. Plus, you have threaded rods for extensive equipment mounting. Honestly, it covers nearly every fastening requirement a complex infrastructure project could possibly need.
Let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds into exactly why you'd want to choose Aanuraj Fasteners for this kind of hardware.
Right off the bat, let's talk about social proof, because it hugely matters in B2B sourcing. Aanuraj Fasteners holds an incredibly impressive 4.7-star rating out of 99 reviews on Just Dial. Now, in the highly demanding, highly critical world of industrial suppliers, maintaining that level of verified user satisfaction is a phenomenal indicator of reliability, quality, and consistent customer service. It shows they actually deliver on their promises to project managers and engineers.
Established in 2018 and operating out of Vasai, Maharashtra in India, Aanuraj Fasteners has very quickly carved out a highly specialized niche for themselves. They aren't just your standard generic hardware store, they are a dedicated manufacturer specializing specifically in custom, high-nickel, and duplex fasteners. They supply genuine imported raw material-based products that strictly meet international ASTM and DIN standards. And honestly, this level of specialization is absolutely key when you're dealing with highly technical, demanding alloys like Duplex 2205.
And this brilliantly illustrates their strict quality assurance process, proving exactly why they maintain such a high rating. Step 1. They start exclusively with certified UNS S32205 or S31803 raw material. No cutting corners there. Step 2. They manage the manufacturing entirely in-house, utilizing precise forging, CNC machining, and thread rolling. By keeping the whole shebang in-house, they maintain absolute control over the tolerances. And Step 3, which is absolutely crucial, all fasteners undergo solution annealing and strict corrosion testing before they ever leave the facility. They don't just assume the material will perform, they prove it.
So, we've covered the harsh reality of extreme environments, the brilliant dual-phase metallurgy of Duplex 2205, its incredible yield strength, and how specialists like Aanuraj Fasteners manufacture them to such strict international standards. I'll leave you with this thought to mull over. Take a close look at your own infrastructure projects. Are your current industrial fasteners truly up to the test of these extreme environments? Or are you secretly compromising on structural safety? It might just be time to evaluate your standards. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं फिल्मोरा है ना।